I was 17 when my parents went away on a week-long anniversary trip. My sister had already moved out by this point, so I had to hold down the fort. Our property is surrounded by woods, with a dirt driveway leading to a quiet back road. All the houses in the area are spaced far apart, giving it a really isolated feel. Everyone in town knows each other. You see familiar faces all the time, whether at the gas station, the grocery store, or the local bars. This story begins one day while my parents were away. I was at a gas station filling up my tank when a black Jeep Cherokee pulled up to the pump next to mine. A man with a goatee stepped out, greeted me, and started filling his tank. In our town, it was normal for strangers to greet each other like that. He locked his nozzle into the gas tank, then walked around to my side of the pump and asked, "Excuse me, do you know how to get to the interstate from here?" I helped him to the best of my ability. He pulled out a notepad and started writing down the directions I gave him, which seemed odd. Most people would just use their cell phones. He thanked me and asked if I was from the area. I said, "Yeah, I grew up here," and he mentioned he was from out of town without specifying where. He then returned to his side, put the nozzle back in the pump, and asked my name as he said, "Nice to meet you." I told him my name was Jenny. He said it was a nice name and then got in his car. As I got into mine, I drove out first and turned left to go up the road back home. It was only a few minutes of driving before I was approaching our turn into the driveway. I slowed down, put my blinker on, and turned right onto the property. At that moment, I noticed the car behind me was that same black Jeep Cherokee. He passed me as I turned into our driveway, going the complete opposite way I had told him to go to get to the interstate. As he passed, he didn't slow down or anything, so it seemed like maybe he just forgot the directions I gave him and went the wrong way. I let myself inside and went about the rest of my day. I think it was that night, when I was going out to meet up with my friends, that I stepped outside and heard the sound of footsteps nearby. Like I said, the house is surrounded by woods, and this was in the middle of summer. It could have been any number of animals, so I didn't investigate. I just got in my car and left. When I got back home hours later and walked from my car to the house, a man's voice from somewhere in the woods called out, "Jenny." I got the chills as I looked around and then, in a panic, rushed to open the front door. I slammed it shut and sat on the couch to catch my breath. The neighbors all knew my name, but the houses are not close to each other, so there was no reason for one of them to call my name like that, like a creep without identifying themselves. I decided to call my parents and tell them. Their explanation was that it must have been one of the neighbors, and they would probably knock on the door soon. I didn't tell them about the encounter at the gas station. The next day, which was a Saturday, I stayed home most of the day. Later that night, I once again was going out to meet with my friends. After getting ready, I went outside, and as I was walking to my car, I heard, loud and clear from a not-so-far distance, someone call Jenny. Again. This time, I didn't wait a second. I ran back inside the house and locked the door. I called 911 this time, texting my family while doing so. After 2 cops showed up to the house, they looked around the perimeter of the property with their flashlights, then came back and said to call again if this persisted. I didn't feel much better after this. It's not really like they did much. I refrained from going outside until the next day when I had work. I was a server at a nearby restaurant. I was working a late shift, and I left the house in broad daylight, paranoid about hearing that voice again. Thankfully, though, I didn't. Maybe seeing the police car finally scared them off. After many hours at work, I was ready to go home and collapse into bed. I pulled onto the property, parked my car out front, and walked to the front door. I stopped when I heard the sound of footsteps again. It didn't sound like an animal's footsteps, though. I stood on the front deck for a second, waiting, and then that familiar voice yelled out again, saying, "Jenny, don't call the cops on me again, cutie." I yelled out, "You need help. You're sick," and let myself inside. I called the cops once more. They came again, searched the perimeter again, and left. My parents told me I should stay at a friend's house for the night. I couldn't agree more. They would be back the following night, so after that I would feel much safer being there. My friend Alex told me I could stay with her that night, so I packed a bag and was ready to go. I checked out the windows first to make sure the coast was clear. I then went outside, locked the door as fast as I could, and ran to the car. As I turned the key in the ignition, I heard something right to my left. Right outside the driver's side door was a man wearing a face mask, trying to open the door. I couldn't even scream. I felt like I was choking on air as I put the car in drive. He started hitting the glass with his elbow. I looped my car around on the grass and sped down the driveway. I turned right up the road and didn't stop until I got to Alex's house. I was hysterically crying the whole drive there as I had Alex and her dad on the phone with me. She said she would have come and picked me up if she had known the situation. We called the police together for a third time. In total, a couple of officers went to my parents' house to investigate again and make sure no windows were shattered or anything. One officer came to Alex's house, where I once again gave my description of what happened. This was probably the most action these cops had seen in a long time in this quiet town. Thankfully, my parents came home the next day, and I felt safe staying at home again. I fully believe the man at the gas station followed me home intentionally, scoped the place out, and realized I was by myself. For whatever reason, he toyed with me until he actually tried to get me. I shouldn't have given my real name, and I should have been more alert to my surroundings and realized he was following me in my car that day. Some people are nuts and have way too much time on their hands. This incident was a huge motivating factor in my moving out to my own apartment a few months later. Growing up, I was raised in rural Idaho. There was hardly anything to do if you liked staring at trees, crops, and lots of alone time. That was the place to be. I got out of there as soon as I got a car and enough money to move. I'm not a nature hater or anything, but I'd pick being by a big city any day. My parents don't own that property anymore. They sold it 5 years ago. To describe it, it was a 3-acre property. The house itself was pretty big, and there was a storage building out back. I was 14 when this happened. My parents would leave me alone often at this age. They trusted me because I matured at a young age and had responsibilities on the property. It was a weekend, and I was playing Vice City on my PS2 in the living room when suddenly a loud metallic bang came from outside, somewhere in the yard. I immediately ran to every window I could to look outside, but I didn't see anything until I got to the window looking out at the storage building out back. The door to it was completely open. I went straight to grab the rifle from the closet and go outside. I made my presence known, shouting, "Who's in there?" to no avail. When I got to the door, I made it clear I had a gun before looking inside. There was a bunch of stuff in there, from the sit-down mower to the quad to infinite little lawn care items. Someone could have been hiding behind any of that stuff. Even as a kid, I didn't scare easily, but at that moment I got really unsettled. I closed the door to the building and went back inside the house. I locked the door and then sat at the window for the longest time, watching the storage building, expecting the door to open at any second. That door was heavy and impossible to just open by itself. It was simply a fact that someone had come and opened it. Whether they were still inside the building, I wasn't sure. I decided to call my dad and ask his opinion. I went to the kitchen, to the landline phone, and called my dad's cell phone. He didn't pick up, so I left a voicemail. This was back when you'd still have to leave someone a voicemail because texting wasn't mainstream. After that, I went back to sitting next to the window, but now I put on a TV show in the background to make this less monotonous. I took the phone with me. I was probably about to give up when I heard creaks from upstairs. My heart was now in my throat. I had to ask myself the big question: was I working myself up, or was someone here? I had a serious guard dog mentality. Even if I didn't love that place, I saw it as mine, my family's. I had to protect it, but I was in over my head. I grabbed the rifle again and walked upstairs. I didn't say anything. Calling out would only let a potential intruder know that I heard them. I made it to the top of the stairs and turned on the light for the upstairs hallway. There were 5 doors to open, all of them closed. 4 led to bedrooms, 1 led to the bathroom. Each door had a decently large crack underneath that would allow you to see under it. The creak in the ceiling I heard moments earlier came from the side of the house my parents' bedroom was on, so I got down on my knees and looked under the crack of the door. I saw 2 bare feet facing the other side of the door. I felt my stomach twist into a knot. The reality of the situation just became so much more real, and I realized I wasn't ready to threaten or God forbid, shoot someone. I got up and quickly went downstairs and hid in the bathroom to call my dad. He still didn't pick up. I left another voicemail and then called again and again. He never picked up. He must have had his phone set down somewhere. I finally called 911, as I should have done right away, and whispered into the phone the whole time, detailing exactly what was taking place. I was told to sit tight in the bathroom and not say a word. I heard footsteps coming down the stairs, and then they approached the bathroom door, as if whoever it was somehow knew I went straight to the bathroom. The footsteps stopped outside the door, and there was a brief pause before a deep voice said, "What's up, kid?" I still remember the voice and those words so vividly. If I heard that voice today, I'd still recognize it immediately. I almost wanted to cry. That's how scared I was. I disobeyed what the operator told me and spoke. I said loud and clear, "I'm on the phone with the cops right now and I have a gun." I put the operator on speaker as she was asking if everything was okay. The man attempted to open the door, and when he realized it was locked, I heard him walk away. I heard the footsteps fade to silence, and then the sound of a door slamming. It was the sound of the back door. I'm sure I breathed a sigh of relief, and from there on, I waited for the police to arrive. When they did, I felt like £1,000,000 just lifted off my shoulders. After a thorough inspection of the house inside and out, confirming that the man was gone, they asked if there was anywhere else I could stay that night. I said yes, my uncle's house. We contacted my uncle, who came and spoke with the police, then took me back to his place. The thing that haunts me the most is that it was my fault. I could have prevented this. I left the door unlocked as I went to the storage building to investigate. Clearly, that's when the man simply walked right into the house. Even with a rifle in my hands, I didn't feel safe at all. It was truly the most horrific experience of my life. Later, I was home alone one night for a reason I don't remember. All I recall is my entire family was gone. I was 14 or 15 years old, a big gamer obsessed with StarCraft. It was a weekend night, just before lockdown started. I was engrossed in my game when the doorbell rang twice. Reluctantly, I left my game and hurried to the door. Through the storm door, I saw an older woman with a disarming smile, hands hidden behind her back. She asked to use the phone, but I redirected her to the library. Something felt off, her smile never faltering, her demeanor unsettling. Back at my game, I heard tapping on my window, like metal on glass. Fear gripped me. Ignoring it, I moved to another room, but the tapping persisted. When the doorbell rang again, I contemplated opening it to confront her, but this time it was a younger man asking about his mother with dementia. He left after I directed him to the backyard. That night, I fell asleep with the TV on, only to wake to the sound of metal tapping on my window again. Peering through the blinds, I saw the woman, this time wielding a kitchen knife with that same eerie smile. Terrified, I retreated to bed, ignoring subsequent doorbell rings and hoping it would all stop. The next morning, I recounted the ordeal to my dad, who confirmed my suspicions of a robbery attempt. Despite wondering about the woman's condition and her son's intentions, I knew I had narrowly avoided a dangerous situation. Reflecting on that night, I realized how easily things could have turned tragic. A week ago, a similar encounter shook me again. Watching a friend's dog, I faced another unsettling visitor at the back door, claiming to know someone who didn't live there. It made me appreciate the importance of locked doors and vigilance. Guys, thank you for your attention. Subscribe and like this video. It will help the channel grow. See you soon.